Welcome to Peace and Healing Harmony. Today we are going to talk about fascia. I have with me Katie. Hi, Katie. How are you?
Hi, Beverley. Very well, thanks. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Did I say it right? Because I don't know if it's fascia or fascia.
I would tend to say fascia
Fascia.
with a silent C,
Yeah.
but it doesn't really
Oh,
matter. Thank you for
okay.
having me today to talk about fascia.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. So tell us about what is fascia exactly.
We're talking about human body. We're talking about anatomy. We're talking about most things in nature, and it would almost be easier to say what isn't fascia than what is, because it's so pervasive. It's almost everything. And if I was to say that at the moment, it's estimated that each of us is about 25 kilograms of fascia. But I think that over the course of a few years, that number's just going to keep going up and up. So blood is regarded as fascia, bone is regarded as fascia, ligaments, tendons, but a lot of people haven't really even heard about it. And it's only in the last, say, 20 years that it's becoming a little bit more mainstream. If I was to say what it is, it resembles like a 3D wet cobweb. So it has been termed our organ of form. So if I was to liken us to a grapefruit, let's say, or I've got a satsuma, an orange here.
Yes.
We are sort of 2/3 water, so 70-80% of us is water. And what holds all of our soup of cells, of 100 trillion cells, all in our sort of shape, whether we're, standing up or lying down or standing on our head, is this matrix of a fabric that is all pervasive and ties every single inch of us together. So if I was to take off the skin of this satsuma, we still have, the satsuma. And then we can take it into different parts. And then all of this, like the pith, could be likened to fascia. One moment, my dog has got the treats and is making a little bit noise. 1 second.
Yeah, no problem.
That was to distract him in case he got a little bit noisy. So within, as I can take away all of these sort of segments, and then we've got the little vesicles inside, and the juice is then contained within this membrane. So this membrane that holds our internal C can be likened to our fascia. Does that kind of make sense?
Yes, everything is actually linked, right?
Absolutely. So, not one part of us moves without the rest of us moving. So I've got a balloon here filled with water. And if I was to squeeze, my dog, if I was to squeeze this balloon, it bulges in sort of a multi-directional movement. It squashes and it squeezes. And this is far removed from the anatomy that we were probably taught at school, of levers, where we just sort of move one muscle and then two bones come together and that's it. That describes more of a robot rather than a sort of a living form. Exactly. So the fascia ties every single bit of us together. It supports our organs. It's our biggest sensory organ as well. So when I was at sort of college, uni, we were taught that if you were sort of standing on one leg and you were going to lose your balance, then your nervous system sort of sends a message up to your brain and then back down to the other side of your ankle, let's say, to help stabilize. But what we now know is that fascia is the biggest sensory organ that we have, a little bit like our sixth sense. So if when we are standing on one leg and we're trying to sort of balance, all of them, the little receptors around our ankle are constantly monitoring the movement. It doesn't go up to the brain. So it's almost like its own nervous system in a way. But this was overlooked for many, many years.
So it's part of us, actually. It's part
exactly.
of our body.
It's constantly sensing and responding. So another example would be if I was to touch something hot on the oven. Again, back in school, we might have been taught that our fingers, sensory recognizes, sends the message to the brain, it's hot, and then the motor sort of output comes and we remove our hand because we know that it's the pain, it's going to hurt. Whereas actually what happens is our fascia is even faster to respond than our nervous system. So there's almost like a shrinkage of the fascia that moves us just, a millimeter or something away first. And then by the time it's gone to our brain and our nerves recognize, then we move our hand away. So it's a very protective mechanism as well. So it's constantly sort of expanding and shrinking and responding constantly.
Does it change during the time? I mean, the more we age, does it change somehow?
Good question. So we're kind of made up of about 4 different types of tissue, and our fascia, also known as connective tissue or extracellular matrix, is the most pervasive of all. So this is made up of like collagen, which could be likened to, let's say, this piece of rope and an elastic. So this makes us a bit more sturdy so that we have stability. And then the sort of elastic band gives us the sort of flexibility to be able to move. And each of us have different proportions of these within us. And then the third bit of the fascia is called ground substance, and it resembles, this is like egg white. Okay. So this is kind of what we want. We want it, this sort of texture within our bodies, so that our hormones can all transport through this medium, our tissues can slide past each other. But if we don't, say, look after ourselves through movement, or, I don't want to just say old age, because a lot of us can be, if we look after ourselves, then it doesn't all get tight and sticky. But let's say that we've had an injury, or we overuse something, or we misuse something, or a lot of the time we don't use something, then that egg white can turn more into sort of like a solid gel. And that is when we start to get stiff and tight, and restrictions occur, and
to move.
And so an example could be, if I'm a tennis player, that's a racket sport, just one side, you're going to have a lot of overuse just on that right side. So our sort of the muscles in the front of our body may start to become a little bit, all the fascia will start to become a bit more thick and gluey, and then start to maybe pull the front of this shoulder forward because it's getting too much use. So we just need to find balance in our movement to help with things like that.
I see, but I have a question. I don't know if it's a question since I don't know about fascia, but is it good to have more or less of fascia? Because you say that the person who play, if it's too much, is moving up front. So because it's too much, right? But is it possible?
That's like the overuse. So we're just born with the amount of fascia. So we're not going to sort of have more or less. It's about the integrity of it. So we want to try and keep it more like this, and then we wouldn't feel like the old age. We wouldn't go. We're born in this sort of flexed position, and then as we get older, we tend to go forward into this position again. Whereas if we keep our heart open, if we practice sort of full body movements, if we're aware of sort of poor posture or one-sided sports, or just the way that we overuse our dominant side, then we can sort of train the other side so that we can have this integrity through our body. So one way that we can, if it does start to go into this sort of solid gel, which is going to start causing us, discomfort or imbalances, is things like deep tissue massage, fascial massage, and I'll describe that in a little bit. Full body movements like yoga and Pilates. So an example would be my son's grandma. She was a really amazing chef. And about sort of 25 years ago, I used to watch her season a chicken, and she used to get a lemon and she would roll the lemon. Really, like
I do that
minute. Or you do that too, right? Yeah. So she would roll this lemon, and I didn't really understand what she was doing. And then she would cut the lemon, and then she would cover the chicken or with it. And it was only as I started learning about fascia, it was like this light bulb moment, because what she'd done was she was rolling this to loosen the fascia, the pith, away from all of the chambers of the juice, so that when she squeezed it, she got more juice. So we want to be juicy, and if we're juicy, we're going to feel healthy, we're going to feel fluid. We are 70-80% water, and we want to kind of be able for our internal C to travel throughout our body from tip to toe without any of this sort of restrictions and adhesions and gel, because that is going to start to stiffen us up. And maybe, pain is the tip of the iceberg. So we don't want it to get to pain. We want to sort of, maintain this fluidity before we even get to.
We get to the.
Exactly. So I was describing this lemon, analogy in one of my classes, and one of the students said, "Oh yeah, you could stick it in the microwave." Well, first of all, look, shock horror, because I can't stand microwaves. It's one of my things.
I don't have either.
But again, it was like, oh, yes, exactly. So you can mechanically roll something like our body. You could use a foam roller, let's say, or lots of dynamic yoga, or sort of deep tissue, very, very deep sustained. Or you can use heat. And this is one of the reasons why hot yoga is so popular, and is certainly something that I like to do is yoga in a sauna, because the heat loosens up your fascia already, so your juices start to flow. I think it's fairly, I don't want to use the word dangerous, but it's not ideal to work out in a cold environment. And this is one of the reasons why we would warm up before doing some sports, to start to sort of loosen everything up, because that is going to to move our blood and increase our oxygen. And but just it's going to give that sort of elasticity so that we're less likely going to injure ourselves. Because if something has turned into this sort of glue, we're more likely going to have an injury either in that part or somewhere else, probably opposite from where this discomfort is.
I see. Wow, this is really interesting. I didn't know that I will be fascinated by it. And well, why is the majority of population just starting to hear about it now?
So it's been, in Western medicine, it's always been this sort of way to reduce everything and to cut everything up and to separate the mind and the body. So in about the 16th century, for example, they started doing dissections, and they would have, in these big amphitheatres, they'd have the body, a cadaver, and they would slice open, and then they would start to take out all the bits that didn't really look very interesting, and sort of come down and just follow these imaginary lines, let's say, from a bone to a bone, and then start labeling everything. So then suddenly we had anatomy, which in Greek means to cut. And we had this anatomy and all these wonderful, wonderful drawings of 600 or plus different muscles with all these different names. And at one point I knew all of the names of these muscles. And now I just see it as quite irrelevant, because I see that we are just one big muscle, a bit like a grapefruit. You know, we don't need to name all the different segments within this grapefruit. We are just one. So that was really what kind of happened. And then it was the sort of birth of sort of osteopathy around 100 years ago. That really helped to sort of open people's mind that we had this connected anatomy and it wasn't so reductionist. And in the last, I'd say about 30 years, it's becoming a little bit more mainstream. We had Thomas Myers, who wrote a very good book called Anatomy Trains, and he divided the body up into 12 different lines, which was really useful and a very good starting point. But again, we're kind of made round, all our cells are round. There are no lines, straight lines in the human body. That's more describes robots. If you look at, you know, this, anything in nature, we're spiral. There's nothing straight that's organic. Great. So it was a good starting point, but we've now moved on to what they call biotensegrity, which is a sort of a multi movement. You know, we could say that this represents our breath. When we breathe in, our whole body is breathing and expanding, and as we breathe out, it's contracting. And it's not just our lung that is moving, the whole bit of us is moving. So yeah, and also, why are we just hearing about it? Well, when people have theories, there's a lot invested in these theories. So let's take a gym, for example, where you've got gym equipment where you train your bicep, you train your tricep at the back, you train your front leg quadricep, you train the back. And there's a lot of money to be made in sort of sports equipment. But again, that's reducing everything down. And if you know your body and you know to treat it as a whole, then the gym equipment could be really beneficial for you. And you would use every piece of equipment and it would be a balanced workout. But what we tend to do is we like that one, so we do more on that one. We don't really like that one, so we miss that one out, or we only do 2 reps or something. So yeah, I think there's, but we are coming away from it. Does that make sense? We're
Yes.
coming back into union, and yoga actually means union, translated means union. So Eastern medicine never cut up the body. It always regarded the body as a whole, like holistic medicine. And I do feel like we're having a renaissance now. We're going rebirth in the West to go back to being holistic, being whole, looking at the body as a whole.
I think that's better also, because, you know, we are not just piece, you know, each piece. It's really, you need to take care of everything, because everything is related, actually.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And this is when we look at anatomy, or how we may have been taught, we were shown a sort of skeleton, and then you know, a sort of rigid structure, and then we might have added a muscle on, and then said, oh, if that muscle contracts, then that bit of the body moves. But it's just not like that at all. So I can see that slowly, anatomy books will be rewritten, and there'll be a move away from labeling and you know, having all these different parts, because we all move as one. An example would be one of my clients who I used to see every week. He was quite a big drinker, and I used to see him in the morning, and he'd come in with a hangover most weeks, and then during the treatment, or sort of at the end, he would always say, oh, my hangover is gone, and he'd be very, very happy about it. So I don't know whether you can relate to this, but I was certainly told that it was your brain that was dehydrated, and this was giving you this headache.
Headache,
but if we think about it, if our brain was dehydrated, and lack of sort of fluid around it, then we would probably die. So there's something else happening before that. And I was explaining earlier that our fascia sort of, it grows and it shrinks, or in all directions continuously. So as I'm giving him this massage, and I might start from the feet and work up the legs, hips, tummy, back, shoulders, that is all loosening this whole fascial net, this 3D cobweb, and that is going to expand across the skull. And as that does, it takes away this sort of compression. So it's like a hydration. And then suddenly the skull, which has got all our bones have sort of pain receptors on, it's not being all pressed. And
it's breathing.
It can breathe again, exactly. And this kind of helps explain why we are bigger or taller in the morning when we wake up than when we go to bed, because we've just allowed our body to just regrow in all directions again by just recalibrating. So we can often be 1/2 an inch or 3/4 of an inch taller when we wake up.
That's nice for me.
I know. And so sometimes my clients, when we're doing yoga, they they'll put their arms up and see if they can touch the ceiling. This is in my yoga studio in London, and they're just off. These are quite the tall men. They're just off. But after we've done an hour of yoga, they can touch, their fingertips can touch the ceiling. And they like that. It's very motivating, because and that's not just their arm that has grown, that's the whole body. And you can feel that also if I massage quite deeply one leg, and then I'll put the heels together, and I'll say, look, can you feel you've got now one leg longer than the other? And if you've got that interoception, if you can tune into your body, they're like, wow, yeah. So then you obviously need to do the other side. This is all about balance and treating the body as a whole. So if I was to allow someone to walk out just with one side, then that would create quite a lot of problems.
Right.
So
Yeah.
always doing both.
About that, I have a question. Maybe you can answer that. You know, there is people who have like one leg much longer than the other one. If you do the massage, the fascia massage, is it going to help to kind of adjust it?
Absolutely. There are a few people that will be born with one actual anatomical shorter leg bone, femur, or right. So that could put you out. But if you're not in that category, and I mean that most people are not like that at all. It's more like a twist that will have happened in the pelvis. And that here's a pelvis here. So someone might have this apparent longer leg and shorter leg, and maybe sort of limping slightly, and that can put a twist in the spine, because our eyes would always want to remain level. Okay. But if you sort of start to unwind the fascia, and it sort of can often move in a spiral fashion, then hopefully this pelvis can start to sort of recalibrate back. And our pelvis could be out of alignment. Let's say we cross our legs more one way than the other, or we always sleep on one side, and then that, let's say, on our left, and our right leg comes over. So often in partnerships, we have a favorite side of the bed, and we kiss our partner goodnight, and then we roll away. So I would recommend sort of swapping sides of the bed. Now that can cause quite a few issues sometimes between couples, because we get quite fixed into what we like, you know. Let's say we have I mean, again, if you're a footballer, let's say, and you're always kicking with one leg, it's, you know, one leg is standing and one leg's doing the kicking, then that is going to start to put you out. So we could do a lot of body work and a lot of the deep, slow, sustained massage to get into the fascia and reorganize it. But if you weren't then conscious of what you were doing in your daily life that were causing imbalances, then it could well come back.
Okay, I see.
So it's not, it may not be a permanent fix.
I see. I'm saying this because, you see, for myself, the pelvis, it went a little bit one side higher. So I was recommended to go see a chiropractor. No, not osteopath.
Yeah.
So it started working actually on the pelvis to try to bring it down, but I'm not sure he knew about fascia. So now that I know, I need to come and see you.
Let me fly over and I'll come see you. Well, here's a good thing that you could do. I mean, how about we all just like try and see if you can feel something for if we do if we just sort of demonstrate, and then I can maybe give you some ideas where you can help open your leg, because with what you're having with the osteopath, maybe he's just working on the pelvis, but what about all the bits that are underneath? And your feet, your knees and your legs are your foundation for your pelvis. So maybe within the treatment we get your pelvis right, but if we haven't addressed everything underneath, you're going to start walking out and it's going to come back. So here's a little way that you can experience your fascia sort of expanding. If you bring your arms out in front of you, so you can do this, Beverley, like, let's try, right? And just notice where your palms are. Now I'll put my arms out in front and my palms sort of meet. Do yours meet together? Right. So then choose one arm to be massaged and one arm to do. So just start quite firmly, just start to sort of manipulate and massage and tease apart all different sort of fibers around the upper arm, like a squeezing motion. Obviously don't cause any pain, but you can be quite firm. And then move down the sort of forearm, like squeezing. And then into the hand, like squeezing. My dog's got all my props. It's very cute. It's wrapped up in a net. All right, and then just individually, maybe the fingers, just giving them a little bit of a squeeze. And then making a fist with that hand and just sort of almost like thumping it.
We do that in when you do qigong.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it's great because it's going to sort of activate your fascia. It's going to improve blood flow. So just then going down the forearm on the inside and the outside, and across the hand. And then just with an open hand, just sort of sweeping all the way down. And this is nice energetically because it just sort of, it can clear, you know, anything that you don't need anymore. And then just bring both of your sort of palms back together and just see.
There is a difference. Yeah. It's
I've got a
longer
difference.
Yeah, it's longer.
Does it feel longer? Excellent.
Yeah.
Oh, your face is a picture. I love it. It's amazing. So just allow your arms maybe to just hang down by your side and close your eyes and just sort of sense and feel whether, again, one feels different to the other.
Definitely.
Yeah? So
Yeah,
how would you, if you could describe it, how would you describe it?
It feels lighter, you know, like I remove some weight or something, you know, so I can move it more easily, you see, than this one, for example.
Amazing.
And yeah. Oh my God, I will do that.
So now if you were to touch your toes, you'd be able to easier touch your toes because you've got a longer arm, right? Yeah. So what would be good is now just to do the other side, you know?
Yeah,
and I'll just keep talking while you just massage the other side because balance is key. But what you've done is you've turned, it's called thixotrophy. You've turned that gel-like substance back into a liquid form. And everything is just expanded, so everything's breathing more. You know, this would improve your circulation if you have cold hands or feet. So what I would recommend for your leg is similar to what we just did with the arm. My broken toes. I'll just get my dog a treat, I think. Here we go.
He's going to be spoiled today.
Yeah, he's loving all of this around me. So what I would recommend is like a golf ball or a hardened lime or a marker pen. And what you can do is you can roll your foot on this this golf ball. And I would recommend for about 2 minutes. You would roll and you would roll and you would roll. Now, if you were to do a bit like what we did with the arms, if you were to sort of fold forward beforehand and feel sort of any tension in your legs, and if you had one leg longer than the other or this sort of twisted pelvis, I'd be able to see that, you know, your sort of your hips were out of alignment and one higher than the other. So then if you did this, so you could do it sitting or standing, and you can roll your foot on this golf ball for about 2 minutes. And then you can forward fold again, and you will notice that the whole of the back of your body, your back leg, is going to be longer. And if you'd done the short side, your pelvis would then probably be level again. And then you can do the other side. So just like what we did with the arm, that you can use a tool and then just roll your foot. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I saw it. So
exactly. You've kind of got to feel it to, to kind of appreciate it. And there's lots of different types of yoga that are, they're all beneficial. They all help to bring you inside and to, yoga is such a balanced way of moving and opening your body. But yin yoga specifically is, it's also called moon yoga, and it's where we would hold postures for a longer period of time. So being in a position and then just waiting and allowing the fascia to expand and reorganize. So there are some classes where you might be up and then down and then round, and with every breath you're moving into a different position, and that is amazing, and that's going to have lots of beneficial effects. But in terms of really getting into the fascia, you would need to continue those movements again and again and again to get this cumulative effect. Or you would choose a front body, a back body, a side body, and twist both sides and hold each of these postures for a good 2 minutes, preferably whilst you're warm as well, so that everything's going to, it's safer, and also you'll have a better effect.
Wonderful.
So when people talk about stretching, sometimes we can stretch and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, blah, 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 and then that's it. You're not going to get into all of the bits, because it's this fabric that's contained. It needs to be, fairly sustained, and 2 minutes tends to be the
average.
The marker really for that, for it to, not only to change but to last.
Okay. Great. How does fascia affect actually your body, or how you feel? I think you say already, yeah?
Yeah, I think so. How else? Well, let's say we've been sitting for prolonged, like our work is or our hobbies involve us sitting for a long time. Let's say we're a bus driver or we're sat at a computer. There is only, like, we're finite, a bit like this balloon filled with water. So we sort of squash and we squeeze. So if I was to constantly be sitting at the computer with this sort of rounded posture, the front of my body is going to become quite short, and the back of my body is going to become very long. So this could be very long and weak, and this could be sort of short and tight. And that is going to make us feel, it's going to close our heart, and our heart chakras. It's going to affect all our meridians and our energy lines. It's going to affect our physiology, as well as our sort of, our anatomy, the structure and the function of our body. Then we're more likely going to get sort of, a problem just tying our shoelaces, and suddenly our back goes, things like this. So having a sort of an open fascia is going to allow everything to breathe, allow us to feel lighter, prevent us from getting injuries, treat previous injuries, and allow everything to just function freely.
I see. Yeah, there is. It is really important. Actually, I can realize that. Is there a way we could actually feel our fascia respond right now?
So we just did a little bit with that with the arm, and then
Mm-hmm.
we can certainly use the golf ball. But another one, if you're happy sort of standing up, we could try one standing up, and this will show or demonstrate a little bit more of the sensory aspect of it, because I did mention it's our organ of form, so our structure, but it's also our biggest sensory organ, which we may have thought was our nervous system, but it's actually not. It's our fascia. So if you want to stand up, and I don't know how your balance is, so maybe just have something close to you for support, but just try balancing on one leg. And you can sort of, do you feel it twitching slightly?
Yes.
Your ankle? Okay, just try the other side as well.
Oh, yes.
Is that your right leg you're standing on that's a bit more unlevel or unbalanced?
Yeah, the one that is most in balance is the left one, and it's the shorter one. And it's the shorter one.
So one of the reasons you could have this longer leg, or apparent sort of longer leg, and the twist in the pelvis is we tend to favour standing more on one side than the other. So it gets stronger, and then we feel more like we want to put weight on that. You know, some people, you know, we can stand with our hip out and things like that. So one thing for you to do would be to stand with your feet slightly wider apart, and then try to sort of feel the ground beneath both feet. And then every time you sort of, you know, notice you veered off and standing more on one side, to just bring back to the center. So if your left leg, your left foot was shaking a little bit more, now that was all shifting and responding on a local level in your ankle to keep you upright. So I don't know whether you've got shoes on, but I haven't. But if you now, a little bit the same as with the hand, if you now massage your left foot. That's it. So just squeezing, and because you're just giving it a bit of sensory input now. You can squeeze the toes, you can squeeze on top or around the ankle.
Yeah. But you know, I realize also when I do my workout, I'm stronger with the other one.
The other side.
Yeah.
So that's probably your more dominant side. When you open doors, you use your right hand, brushing teeth using the right hand. So really being aware of our whole body and then switching things up. And this can have a profound effect on our nervous system, where if you do start to use your left side, let's say, you know, playing tennis, you might not want to play the game with your left arm, but just practicing going through the motions with your left arm, with the racket in your left arm, because of the crossover in the brain, you actually become better on your right side. So, you know, you're going to create more neural pathways if you brush your teeth with your left hand than constantly using a right. And you're going to get stronger because you're going to build up muscle cells in that side as well. So there's a lot going on. So you still squeezing?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So now just stand up and just see whether that has changed anything for you with your stability as you stand on one leg on that left leg.
Oh yeah. Wow. I'm living miracle today.
So
I can see the difference.
yeah, you can fit. So there's so many. I mean, that was only what, a minute of just giving that foot some attention, all those sensory sort of receptors, mechanical receptors in your foot, some stimulation, and it's like it wakes it up, and then we become more responsive. So we mentioned old age. Well, we tend to sort of trip and fall a lot more when we get older, and a lot of sort of elderly end up in hospital with a broken hip or a broken wrist because they've fallen. These trips and falls are often one of the first ways for people to start to decline, because as soon as you've got this bad broken hip, then your hobbies have all gone, you can't move, everything tightens up. So just even these small little sort of exercises or awareness to stimulate the fascia could prevent you from falling over because your balance has improved. So it could have a profound effect, really, on health and well-being. Because the worst thing that we can do for our fascia is not move, because that is going to then turn everything from that liquid into this solid, and then we become sluggish and we don't want to move, and everything's a bit more of an effort, and then even because, as I mentioned, it's like this sort of 3D sort of net, this sort of 3D wet cobweb that also surrounds all of our lung tissue. So if everything started to thicken up and adhere, then our lung capacity is going to shrink as well, and even around our bladder. So then our bladder's not going to hold so much liquid, so then we're going to want to go to the toilet more often, and we can't hold as much liquid, and I've got quite a few clients who before seeing me, that was a massive impact for them, because they were scared of getting on the train for long journeys, because they might need the toilet, or they were waking up 3 times in the night to go to the toilet because their bladder capacity wasn't as big as it used to be. So that was affecting the sleep, and as soon as your sleep's affected, that's going to affect your mood, your hormones, everything, and your sort of circadian rhythm. So this isn't just a sort of affecting your muscles, it's going to affect every single organ of your body when you think of it as a whole.
Oh, that's wonderful. One last question. What do you think happen now? Is there a paradigm shift happening that,
Absolutely. We touched on this a little bit earlier, where, I was sort of saying that I think we're having like a rebirth in anatomy and physiology, and that this reductionist approach, it's outdated. Unfortunately, it's not filtered into schools as yet. I've been to my son's school assemblies where they were showing how the body worked, and it was all on this sort of lever system, which, as I said, best describes robots and not us. But we are without doubt moving towards this multi-directional tensegrity. It's system where we're going to be viewing the body as a whole, and that not one bit moves without the rest moving. And the current term of this is called biotensegrity. So it's called tension integrity. So I was just mentioning that if you overuse one side, then the integrity of your body, you know, you become a bit Viking body on this side, but your jungle body on this side. So our way of thinking is going to sort of draw us back to the whole. We regard the body as a whole on the micro and the macrocosm, and we want this. We're going to view the body more in terms of, yeah, as I said, biotensegrity. So you know, you remove one bit and everything is moving. So away from this classical biomechanics of levers and moments. I mean, I don't know whether you studied anything back at school, but we were sort of, everything was like, if you load something like this enough, then this bit will move. And, you know, it was almost like we were taught that our bones moved us, and they don't. Our bones should not touch at all. They should be floating within this fluid fascia system. So yeah, and that's called biotensegrity, and I think we'll all be hearing a lot more about this, and we'll be moving away from this isolated muscle theory into this whole body sort of view, paradigm, holistic medicine.
Wow.
Maybe even back to more Eastern medicine as well, because when you understand or understand the fascia, it helps to appreciate how acupuncture works and how you can put a needle in a foot point and feel it in your jaw because of this connectivity.
Wow, this is really interesting. Thank you very much, Katie. It was really, I learned a lot today, and I experienced also, I feel lighter on one side. So thank you very much. And thank you all for watching us. If you like the video, just press the button like, and do share also. Thank you very much. And I see you soon. Thank you, Katie.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye.